What's going on, everybody? And welcome back to the Exquisite Sounds Podcast. It's your host, DJ Tornell, man, here with Exquisite Sounds. And again, like I said, we're back with the Exquisite Sounds Podcast. Now, we've got a guest today, very special guest. She is legend in the industry. She works at a legendary venue, and super excited to have her on. Now, I feel like, I don't know, I'm going to be honest with you, Michelle. I don't know if I've ever gotten the correct pronunciation of your last name, but I believe it is Segura. Is that right?
You're pretty close.
Okay, help me out.
Yes, if you're saying it in English, it would be Segura. So,
Okay.
yeah. But if you were saying it in Spanish, my husband's Colombian, it's Segura.
Oh, wow. Nice. Okay.
Mhm.
All right. Good stuff. Well, Michelle, it's a pleasure for you to be here. I'm really stoked about it. I think you and I, we were at a networking event, and I was like, hey, Michelle, I want to get you on the podcast. And then it went dark. You know what I mean? Like life
Life
happens.
gets busy.
Life gets busy with schedules, and then just, events during the week, on the weekend. It's busy.
Yep.
It's busy. So yeah, but I appreciate you being on. Now, listen, Michelle, you work at one of the legendary spaces. I don't want to say just in Atlanta, but I feel like in the country.
Well, thank you for.
And the only reason why I say that is because, like, again, so we've been working at the Biltmore, I won't say since like we started, but definitely the better part of 6 or 7 years, heavy, I feel like. And but the Biltmore right here in Atlanta has always been one of those places that, again, I grew up here, so it's kind of iconic, but I mean, we've done a lot of weddings where people were coming from out of town, right? And that was their destination. That was like, we're getting married at the Biltmore. You know what I mean? So I have to kind of give it its props and just say, like, it's not just Atlanta. I think it's like, maybe the South or whatever, but like it's definitely like a spot that people want to get married at, wouldn't you say?
For sure. Yeah, we
Yeah.
have people all the time that they tell us, like their grandparents came and did their honeymoon here from Alabama, and now they're getting married here. So yeah, there's a lot of history to the building, and you don't realize like the generations of people that have been here. But then you also get people who have lived here for many years, and they're like, "Oh, I never knew what was inside the building. It's beautiful in here. I had no idea for 30 years."
Yeah. No, okay. So how long has the Biltmore been so how long has the
So the building opened in 1924, so 100 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah, so 100th anniversary this year, very exciting. And it was a hotel.
Okay.
And the 2 ballrooms did exist when it opened. So, we've been doing events here for 100 years.
Wow. Really?
Yeah.
Is that the oldest in Atlanta?
Say that again?
Is that the oldest in Atlanta, technically?
I don't know if the Fox Theater, if they're older.
Forgot about the Fox. Yeah. Okay. All right.
Maybe the Fox, but kind of a similar story. So it was a hotel for years, and then it was in the 90s when it was no longer a hotel. It went vacant for years. It almost got knocked down, similar to the Fox.
Wow. Okay.
And luckily, then someone came in and bought it, and they renovated it to be office space and retail. So office space above the ballrooms, retail below, but still, having the events in the ballrooms themselves. So it was a huge renovation that they went through because it had been vacant for so many years. And obviously, you're here in the South where it's so humid, and HVAC's not running for a while. So there was a lot of renovation to be done, but luckily they were able to save the ballrooms.
Okay. I did not know that. That's really good to know. Okay, so here's a great question then. So the chandelier that is in the middle of the ballroom, where does that come? Is there any story there? Because I know down the street, I understand that there's a kind of iconic, chandelier in that building.
Yes. Don't think it is original.
Okay.
I probably should know this. But there's a possibility it is.
Okay.
There's a possibility it is. Yeah, it is an iconic chandelier. It takes a lot to maintain it. And I think you're referring to the one in the Georgian Ballroom.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. Yeah. And so just so our folks, and I'll throw some pictures here, some video too, but we got 2 ballrooms at the Biltmore. We have the Georgian Ballroom, and then I believe the other ballroom is the Imperial Ballroom. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Right. Yeah. Both are great. We've worked in them a ton of times. I'd be kind of lying if I didn't say the Georgian is probably like my favorite. You know what I mean? It just kind of says like, wow. But there's this amazing chandelier in the middle of the ballroom. And, I personally tell all our couples, I'm like, hey, listen, if nothing else, you want to do your first dance under that chandelier. So if you get a bunch of requests of people like flipping their floor plans around, we might be getting you guys.
Don't worry. I tell them about that all the time too. That's like the new setup is to do, your dance area under
Under the
under the
chandelier.
chandelier. Because
Yeah.
you could do your bridal party, table, but you're only gonna have so many photos of the bridal party table, but dancing, you're gonna have so
Yeah.
many of
So
those.
many. Yeah, I
Yeah,
got you.
for
Okay.
sure.
Man, I did not know that. Okay, so that's great to know. So underwent a major renovation, and now, so basically, the Biltmore is managed by I guess would it be I don't know if would it be a property management company or okay,
Yes.
so it's a property management company, okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you've worked in the event space for a while,
Mm-hmm.
and you've been at the Biltmore for how long?
Almost 3 years.
Almost 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Here's my first thing when it comes to venues and for clients reaching out. What's the difference between reaching out to a venue that's like, say, self-owned and ran versus one that potentially is run by like a property management company or an event management company?
Yeah, so I don't have experience working for a venue where it's, say Bob Smith owns it and he's got this beautiful, all those
Yeah.
farms out there that became venues years ago and things like that. I don't have experience with like that type of venue. But I will say when people come and they talk to us about, like load in and how much access do we have and all that. And sometimes they're surprised when they think, oh, 3 hours of load in isn't enough. Well, such and such a venue 50 miles outside of Atlanta gives you 9 a.m. that day.
Yeah.
So, there's perks to that where you have the venue the whole day. But Novair Events, which is the company I work for, we are a venue management company. And then there's also the property manager of the building. So
Okay.
technically Novair Events is just a tenant in the building managing the ballrooms.
Okay.
And a lot of times people don't understand that. They think, they're coming to the Biltmore ballrooms and that I manage all of the building.
Yeah. You can make this happen, Michelle. You can make it happen.
So, there's, we're trying to keep everybody happy with, property management, with, the rules that are set in place to keep the property nice, to keep all the other tenants happy. And of course, to take care of our clients and do the best we can for whatever custom things they want to have. So, we probably have a little bit more rules here because we do have a property management company who is also looking out for all the other tenants. But yeah, there's plenty of venues out there where they either own the building or they are managing it and there's no other tenants. And so sure, you want to, I don't know,
Yeah, you want
sparklers on property, well, it's okay. But like, we can't do that here because you're a historic building and also the damage to the building in general and, things like that.
Got it. No, that makes that makes a lot of sense because again, when I've always thought about it, I've always thought like, yeah, because obviously I'm in the industry, with you. I know Novair is managing several different buildings and ballrooms, as you say, but I wasn't thinking about the tenant itself that's sitting above it. That's like, well, I still own the building. You know what I mean? So I've got to protect the lawyer's office or the dentist's office or whatever's upstairs. So that makes a lot of sense. All right, so we know that, hey, listen, if I'm looking at the Biltmore, I'm dealing with Novair, and Novair's got its own like set of rules that are obviously passed down from management company XYZ, right? Okay, great. Well, here's a big question for you. Now, something I saw just yesterday, I had somebody reach out to me about another space. If someone were looking at the Biltmore, right? Like I was sharing with you earlier, we now have brides and grooms and couples that are literally saying like, hey, this has been on my vision board for all these years, but maybe they've never been to the Biltmore. What is the best way for them to officially understand what it is to have their event at the Biltmore, to see the space, and what are the ways they can do it, before they kind of come in for an official visit, and then how do they do that there with like a tour? You know what I mean?
So usually people will just inquire online. I feel like most couples who are getting married, they are, computer, not necessarily pick up the phone and want to talk to anyone. They just want info to be sent to them.
Send me a
And then
pricing guide.
and then reach
Like,
out when they're ready.
yeah. I'm ready now. Don't know if you're available, but I'm
Yeah,
ready. Yeah, I got it.
exactly. So we get a lot of our inquiries online, just requesting information. So we have a whole informational packet that we'll send to them along with photos, but most of the time people have seen photos. And then, we put our availability in there for a tour. So we recommend people come for a tour because even though it might seem pretty straightforward, here's this ballroom, here's that ballroom, the flow of like guests arriving and then you have the lobby and where do you go? And especially when there's weddings, when there's like room flips.
Right.
A lot of people don't understand what a room flip is and what do we do during that time. So I think the best thing is reaching out either through our website or email addresses, which are on our website, getting an info packet and setting up a tour so that we can really like walk them through the space. And then obviously they're going to have other follow-up questions, parking and all of that can be addressed in person. I mean, we can certainly email. Sometimes we get emails with, 30 questions and we're just responding to them, which is totally fine. But a lot of times, either conversation or with phone or obviously doing a tour is going to be a lot more informative.
Are there any virtual tours or anything? Because like,
let
me just tell you what I saw online yesterday. I thought was pretty unique. And I think it's the first time I've seen it. So there was a venue. It's in town. It's at a hotel. So that might be the difference there. A major hotel. And you could see their ballrooms, but it almost gave you like a schematic telling you how high the ceilings were, how deep the ballroom was. If you had round tables, it would fit this many. And I've worked that ballroom, so I kind of knew that. But just to know that, like, hey, between this wall and this wall, it's 40 feet. Ceilings are, so many. Because like I always tell people when we talk to people, specifically with the Biltmore, I'm always like, hey, listen, at a minimum, you need 20 lights over in that the big ballroom. Minimum 20 lights. You could go more if you want, but I know you need a minimum 20 to get around all the pillars because I've done it. I now know that all the circuits are 20 amps. I now know that. But some of that stuff you may not know if you're just kind of just like, oh, I like this space and just trying to kind of go sight unseen. You know what I mean? So I think that's pretty cool. I think that's pretty cool. Let me ask this question because you mentioned it. So some people could be listening, could be watching, and may not know what a room flip is. And I think room flips are one of the most horrible. No, I'm just kidding.
Stressful for some people.
They can definitely be stressful. But tell me this: if you had a wedding, well, what is a room flip based on at the Biltmore? Is it based on number of guests? Or is it based on them just reserving both spaces? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, so there's two options. So the great thing is, since we do have two ballrooms, you could do your ceremony in one ballroom, have cocktail hour in one of the pre-function spaces because there's a pre-function space with each ballroom.
Right. Yep.
And then you can go right into the other ballroom for dinner and that allows you to have a shorter cocktail hour. You don't have to have a full hour because typically a room flip takes about an hour.
Yeah.
But usually photos after the ceremony take about 45 minutes to an hour anyway.
Depending on your photographer, but yeah, I got you.
Well, yeah. Hopefully.
No shade at the photographers, right?
Yeah. So that's one option sometimes people go with. Of course, it depends on guest count too, because our smaller ballroom, theater style seating with direct line of sight, we can accommodate 230 people.
In the small ballroom?
Theater style. If you put some in the back area where the carpets.
Oh, got it. Makes sense. Okay.
Yeah, so we can do 230. Where the Georgian ballroom, we could seat up to about 300 theater style between the columns. So if you were thinking you're going to have 250, 275, then you're not really going to fit in the Imperial for your ceremony.
Right.
So then you would do a room flip in the Georgian. Of course, when renting both on, your peak event days, which are Saturdays, you're going to have both rentals, both beverage minimums, since we provide the alcohol. Really? So sometimes for those lower discounts of, say, 100 people, 150 people, financially, it doesn't make sense or it's not within their budget to rent both and have both beverage minimums.
I got it.
Fridays, we've lowered beverage minimums, and Sunday through Thursday, they don't have any beverage minimums. So we often see people book both on a Sunday because you don't have both beverage minimums to reach.
Oh, wow. Okay. Didn't know that. So great point. Right. And actually you mentioned something that I had in my notes, right? But I didn't ask because I guess until you said that, I did not know that. So it sounds like the food and beverage is through Novair or through the Biltmore?
Just beverage, just alcohol.
Yes, beverage. Ah, okay.
So food, we don't have an in-house caterer. We have a list of approved caterers, and they're the same throughout all of Novair events. So they're just caterers that we've built relationships with that know the rules of the Biltmore.
Right.
And so you book one of them, and they have their own separate minimums, most likely. But our beverage minimum is strictly beverage, non-alcoholic.
Okay. So question for you as someone who works on that side, is that kind of unique? Because I feel like that's unique. Or is that the standard?
It's not unique, well, to me, because all of our venues are like
Right,
that.
but
I'm
I
trying to
think
think
that's
of
I feel like that's the only venue that I would know that does it, because I've seen most times catering handles drinks / bar, or it's like a separate bartender bar service.
Yeah. So if the venue doesn't hold the liquor license,
Got it.
then
Okay.
the client can bring the alcohol in, and then the bartenders from the caterer can provide the bartenders to serve the alcohol. But there are other venues. Actually, Fernbank is similar. The two venues at Piedmont Park, the Botanical Gardens, the History Center, those are all venues that do the bar service, but they don't have catering. They're similar to us, where they have your approved caterer list as well.
Okay. Didn't know that. That's good to know, though. That's good to know. Okay. So when somebody's looking at the Biltmore, obviously they're looking at, hey, it's this to rent the space, but also there's going to be a a beverage minimum as well.
Right. And it's just, I mean, people are confused about what a minimum is. I get the question all the day, like, oh, well, what does that include? I'm like, well, it doesn't include anything. You just have to spend at least, $4,000 on your bar package, and you get to pick which bar package and which upgrades or, champagne toast or whatever you want to do. It's not like, for $4,000 here, this is what you're getting.
Gotcha. What's the since we're kind of right there, what's the average bar minimum? Like if somebody were shopping, looking around for a venue, and this is their scenario, what should they kind of line item or just kind of put in quotations for a bar minimum?
So I think most venues, the bar minimum is going to be based on the day of the week. And then the size of the venue, because if you can only fit 100 people, you're not going to have an $8,000 beverage minimum. So ours, we have two different ballrooms, two different capacities. So the Georgian is the larger of the two. We can accommodate up to 300 max in there at the dance area. Some people try to push it more beyond that.
Don't they?
Can't you squeeze another table? I'm like, I mean, you see the floor plan. I don't know where you put another 60 inch
table over in the corner.
So on a Saturday, it's 6,000 in the Georgian ballroom, and then in the Imperial, it's 4,000 because it's a smaller space.
Okay.
But then Fridays, it's about half. The beverage minimum is about half of that, and then Sunday through Thursday, unless it's a holiday weekend, there's no beverage minimum. So we do host a lot of cultural weddings here that don't serve alcohol. And so we recommend that they either pick a Friday and just do soft drinks through us or mocktails, or they do Sunday and there's no beverage minimum.
Okay. I did not know that. That's good to know. That's really good to know. So, all right, here's the question for you. So in this day and age, and like we were talking before, right, we're seeing this new wave of brides, which again is I would say brides and couples, right? We're like, it's it's great to see them all the time, right? But I feel like a lot of them are, they're getting so much of the information from like social, right? Which is totally cool. As someone who's done a few things, I'm always like, yo, you have to investigate social because it could be wrong, right?
Yeah.
But if couples are looking to kind of stay up to date with like, hey, what's going on with the venue, what's available at the venue, what can you or what can't you do at the venue, what's the best way for them to really know and find that out?
We are present on social media. It's, I'm sure most businesses too have, experienced it. There's, unless it's like, you own your own business and you got someone dedicated to that social media, whether it's being at events live and posting it, or just constantly have like one person dedicated to it. It's hard to really post things on social media that are the most up to date. So, I mean, really it's just talking to us, there's not too much that changes about the Biltmore because, it's a historic building. We can only do so much besides the fact that we got brand new floors in the Georgian last summer. That's really the biggest thing.
They did get new floors. I got some
We
videos.
did.
Spanking new floors.
Yes. Not that we wanted to, but you know the story.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So yeah, I would say, if it is something big, we'll post it on social media. If it's like little things, then it's really just contacting myself or Carrie, or if it's at one of our other venues, one of the other account executives.
Okay. Here's a good question, and this is something that I mean, I see this with all vendors, obviously, but I definitely see it with photographers and venues, right? Just when I'm like in a couple different groups, and the number one complaint I feel like that I see about these two areas are response times. So my question to you, I mean, that's just what I see, right? People always say DJs are horrible, right? They just throw us under the bus, right? But tell me this, like, what's the expected response time from a venue?
What is our expectation as far as when we respond?
You can tell me what yours is. Yeah, that's fine.
Well,
That's totally fine.
I mean, for me personally, it's been 24 hours max. By the end of the day, if I can. So like, we get inquiries, that come in. Actually, I saw last night, 1:32 in the morning. So, as far as inquiries, we'll respond throughout the day. The great thing is at the Biltmore, it's myself and Carrie. So we work together as a team. So I'm in appointments, she's responding to inquiries and emails, and then vice versa. So I would say we're pretty quick about it. But I mean, if you're a venue and it's just you and you're doing tours all day, it might be once a day that they're able to respond to the inquiries, but it's still within 24 hours.
Got it.
I've always been a 24 hours girl. I mean, I think that's just how I was taught, but I don't know what the expectation of the generation who is getting married.
It's right now.
Yeah, it's like, well, yeah, the phone call, the email, the double email, I'm trying to text you to your landline. So sometimes people think an hour is the response time.
Yeah, I got you. So tell me this, okay? I've never been in there, obviously, for many obvious reasons when I say this, but couples getting married at the Biltmore, I'm assuming there's a bride suite, there's a groom suite, or area, so to speak. Is that those things? There's fancy groom's lounge somewhere that I don't know about, or
not here, unfortunately. I'm sorry to say that the grooms kind of get pushed to the back burner, but there is an area. Okay. So we have 2 changing rooms here. We call them changing rooms. They're not bridal suites where you would, like at a hotel and it's this big room and couches and all these glorious things. It's a changing room, which they have. One is included with each of the ballroom rooms.
Okay.
So, and they have access to that 3 hours before the wedding. So the girls would get their hair and makeup done at a hotel, be very comfortable. And then usually the bride comes over to put her dress on here.
Okay.
And then the guys have an area to hang out in, like in the Georgian side, there's the promenade, that long hallway, off the ballroom, where vendors are.
Yep.
So the guys typically use that area because it takes them 5 minutes to get.
It takes them 5 minutes to, exactly.
Yeah.
With themselves together.
So they'll hang out in there. And Imperial, it's a little tricky. They usually are in the pre-function space, but at least it keeps the couple separated if they're not seeing each other before the wedding. Yeah.
Okay. I got it. All right. So cool. So listen, we're gonna kind of start bringing this thing on home. I got a couple DJ related questions. Okay. So or entertainment rather. I shouldn't say just DJ, but based on your experience, you've seen tons of events, since you've been at the Biltmore, right? What do you think works better, band, DJ? What do you think works best for cocktail hour, right?
Cocktail hour, because it's a smaller space, I would say like, a duo or a trio, kind of some live music is really nice.
Right. Okay. All right.
Yeah. I mean, if you can't afford that and, DJ or band just going to pipe in some music, then I would say that because, I'm sure you experienced this. Once you get like 25, 30 people in and then the rest, like you really can't even hear the music.
Yes. 100%.
For cocktail hour.
Okay.
But I think you were going to say for reception.
Yeah, for reception. So here's what I'll add about the cocktail hour. So generally, like when we're advising, or talking to couples, we will offer both, right? If depending on what they're interested in, right?
Mhm.
You know, we'll most often 90% of the time we're like, hey, listen, you know, we're just gonna, you know, playlist, pipe in, you know, really slim speaker, you know, boom, it's in the corner,
Yeah.
and it's good to go. My biggest thing about cocktail music always is like you never notice that you don't have it,
Right.
kind of sort of, until you don't have it and you're just like, yo, there's like this weird silence kind of sort of, right? So I'm a big fan of like, yo, you have to have some cocktail music of some sort.
Sure.
You know, we are started kind of offering musicians for cocktail hour as well. I think it can be nice. I think the only disadvantage I feel like sometimes with cocktail hour, no matter where you're at, is space, because now you
Hmm.
pushed 150 people into a 400 square foot space, maybe something like that, you know, maybe a little bigger. I don't know. It just
Sure.
depends, you know,
Yeah.
but you know, you got some people who can sit down, some people can't. So yeah, so it can be a lot sometimes. Yeah. So it just depends. But again, back to reception. And I asked this question because the ceilings in the Biltmore are so high. One of the
Hmm.
things I think that it's not a challenge, but it can be challenging, is throwing the sound, especially on that bigger side, especially like if the DJ's all the way in the front and you're trying to throw the sound all the way to the back. So depending on what you're working with, you might be in a losing situation, you know, or you might need to just get some additional equipment, right? But like, yeah, what do you think works best over there?
I mean, I'm not here all that often for the actual events, so
What? I feel
you
like I
probably
see you all the time.
no. Back in my previous job, I was at events. Here,
I got you.
luckily,
Get to go home.
I'm on the front end.
Yeah, I got you.
I mean, of when I hear bands, even with bands and the loud music, and people are, when they come in for tours, they're like, oh, there's a big echo, and that's because there's nothing set up in there.
Right, yeah.
Once you get the tables and linens and people in there, it absorbs the sound. So we've never
Yep.
really had any issues with like a big band, besides the fact that like they're just louder.
Yes.
So it
Yes.
depends on the vibe you're going for. And they obviously can't play as wide range of music as a DJ can.
Yep.
But as far as sound itself, I think as long as it's a good sound system,
Pretty
then
good,
it'll
yep.
work just fine. I mean, I've heard, plenty of people tell me from other different venues, like, oh, the sound was terrible. And I was like, well, I mean, who was the DJ? Or who did the AV? Or maybe they
Right.
didn't have the right speakers. So like, especially when we have clients who bring in vendors, entertainment that haven't been here before, I always tell them, bring them by.
Yeah.
They don't always do it, but I mean, every
Yeah.
venue is not created equally with the sound, as I'm sure you
No.
know.
Oh yeah, 100%, 100%. Let me ask this question: is the power distribution box included automatically with the rental? And before I go
Yes.
there, okay, so it
Okay.
is included. Awesome.
Yep.
So
Mhm.
for my couples anybody listening to this that doesn't understand what that is, that can be super key, right? So
Mhm.
although the Biltmore, I mean, but to your point, the building is 100 years old. But
Mhm.
although it's 100 years old, it's been renovated, so all the circuits are 20 amps, right?
Yes. Mhm.
However, once you start plugging in speakers, DJ equipment, a band, lighting, whatever, you could easily blow one of those 20 amps, like easily, because it's going to be maxed out. So what a lot of
Mhm.
venues may do is, especially at hotels, and venues that do a lot, they'll bring in a separate power distribution unit that has more juice, if you will. Like
Right.
the History Center does it. We don't do it at Fernbank, actually. Obviously the Biltmore, I think most times, especially on the bigger side, I feel like it's over there. Smaller side,
Mhm.
much, but definitely on the bigger side. But yeah, you say it is included in the rental, right? Like all the
Yes.
time. Awesome.
We usually don't need it all that
The
often,
smaller
even
side.
for the big bands. It's really just if like the caterer has like a lot of heating lamps, because uplights should be wireless. So unless there is like a big AV setup, and that's like when we do corporate events or presentations or something like that, and there's all types of lighting being shot everywhere. But yeah, but it is available. There is one in each ballroom,
Okay.
actually. But usually the Imperial doesn't have as large of a setup as the Georgian.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Good stuff. Good stuff. I think that was those were my big questions. Now I do have one last one. This is I'm just curious. Okay.
Okay.
What's the most unique thing that you've seen at the Biltmore since you've been there?
I don't know if I would say it's unique, but I was not exposed to film shoots. So we do a lot of film shoots, and I know from that a little bit before.
Yeah.
I mean, most people know like Atlanta is known for filming just because of the tax break and all that in Georgia. But we've had a lot at the ballroom at the ballrooms because, they want that shot of whether it's a wedding or they're at some big, fundraiser function in the movie or the TV show. A lot goes into these films and TV shows, but like for, I don't know, even 3 minutes or 5 minutes of a shot, they're here for 5 days.
Yeah.
And it's all about the prep time, which is usually at least 2 days before. You've got the shoot day and then the breakdown.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're loading in for 3 days. And it's, they need a lot of power, and there's a lot of, they have to go through the city to get a lane closure. They used to do it the city, but then also like the building itself. And we have our office tenants, and then there's the private condo building in the courtyard, and then they have to be contacted. So it is a huge
That's a huge deal. That's
undertaking.
That's a lot to move around.
We have, years of experience with it, which is great. And Carrie's been doing it for so long that I think she could do it in her sleep. But yeah, just the amount of staff that comes on site and the time that they spend here and all the things they bring in just for 5 minutes. And I'm sure they throw it all, all the decor away and all of that. So that's been really cool to see. I haven't really met anyone like super famous. There was a country singer in here, but I don't really listen to country, so I was like, that's okay. I don't need to meet him because I won't be able to appreciate who he is.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, I got you.
And usually, like, the really, the A-list celebrities, like, there's no chance you're getting anywhere close to that. But yeah, that's been really cool to see those film shoots. We used to do about 4 or 5, sometimes 6 a year. Not so many right now, but yeah, that's been really cool to see.
Okay, no, that's pretty good. I mean, again, like I was saying right before we jumped on, I mean, I just saw the Biltmore in a movie last week, literally, like I think the night before 4th of July. So I was like, oh, that's the Biltmore, and so that's pretty cool. Well, all right, listen, Michelle, it has been great. We're gonna land this. I mean, I think we learned a lot today about the Biltmore. Again, I mean, I knew it was iconic and had been here for a while. I didn't know that it had been around that long, though. You know what I mean? That's pretty amazing. That's gives you a new appreciation for it.
Sure.
I guess to that list, though, I would also, would the Georgian Terrace also kind of be in that list, I would think? Because the Georgian Terrace has been around quite a while.
That's true. I'm not sure. I'll have to look that up.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, back then, I mean, even in, when I had mentioned that the building was vacant in the 90s, I mean, Midtown was like, you wouldn't be caught dead in Midtown. So I think that's why there was like such a struggle, especially with the Fox too, of like, there wasn't anything here. There's a lot of crime, but then luckily, obviously, that all got cleaned up. But yeah, the Georgian Terrace probably is right around the same age.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
That's what's up. Okay, cool. Well, listen, it has been great. I appreciate you jumping on the podcast with me, telling us a little bit about the Biltmore, about yourself, and just again, we are pretty fortunate. We get a lot of couples reaching out about the Biltmore, so I can't wait to share this with them and be like, hey, listen, we know Michelle, book us.
Awesome. Yeah, we love working with you, Torin. You're always so professional. You're always have a smile on your face. Actually,
you try.
Yeah, and it just makes it easier. And yeah, when you work with vendors that like, they know you know them, like it's easier, to want to help them out or them to help you out. And just the fact that you are such an advocate for the Biltmore, we really appreciate it.
Hey, no problem. All right, cool. Well, listen, I'm gonna let you get back to work, and I'm gonna head on vacation.
Awesome. Have a great time.
Hey, listen, everybody. Again, thanks for tuning into the podcast. Again, you can obviously find the Biltmore everywhere at the Biltmore, Atlanta. That's if you literally can just find it right there. They're all over all the social platforms. Of course, they're an amazing website. And of course, if you guys are looking for us, we're ever at Exquisite Sounds ENT. And we'll catch you on the next one. Peace.